Hiya. In this tutorial, you're going to learn about bouncing a ball, making an animation in 3ds Max. It's a basketball, so it reacts like a basketball. Um, in doing this animation, you also will learn about squash and stretch, for instance, which is one of the principles of animation. You will learn about the curve editor in 3ds Max and a few other things. So let's go forward. So let's first just have a look at this image here. The shape of a curve that the ball follows is its trajectory. This affects the realism of the animation, and so does the shape of the ball itself. So we'll get into this a bit later on through the tute. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the auto key down the bottom here. So auto key does exactly what it says. It makes keys automatically, and by doing so, we'll make this animation. So if you turn it on, you'll see that the whole time line here goes red, and off we'll go to this part of the tute. You will also notice that the viewport that you've got activated will also go red around the outline of it. Okay, so when we move something in Max, when we've got auto key on, a key will be created on the timeline along here. At this stage, it's running at about 30 frames a second. So if we went about 15 frames here, that would be about half a second. And we're going to sort of base it on that. So with 3ds Max also, every object has its own, you can have its own timeline to the object or its own animation. So we need to select the ball. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to select the ball. I've got the move tool activated here, and to do that you can use the W on the keyboard to get to your move tool, or you can use the quad menu by right clicking and selecting move in this part of the quad menu, or you can simply go up the top here and click the move tool, which is just up here. Okay, so now that I've got the ball selected, I'm going to make the ball drop down into the ground just slightly in the first 15 keyframes, about half a second. So I'm coming over here and I'm going to grab my slider, by the way, and I'm going to move it over to frame 15. So this action will happen between 0 and 15. The keyframes haven't actually appeared here yet, but when I move this guy down, and I'll move it in the perspective view since I've got it activated, on the Z axis, you should see keyframes appear, and they have, at 0 and at 15. So I'm going to move him just straight down, no other angle, just straight down on the Z, and slightly into the floor here. Okay. So now if we grab our time slider here, and we drag it back to the 0 keyframe that's created, you'll see that we've drag it back and forward, you can see that we've actually done the bounce here. Okay. So the other thing in 3ds Max is that if you actually select something and move it while holding down Shift, you make a copy of it. So moving something could be just moving it in the X, Y, or Z angles, or it could be scaling it or rotating it. In this case, you can also do it with the keyframes themselves. So I'll just move the slider over there so you can see what I'm doing. If I actually select, and this is what I'd like you to do, is select the keyframe and it will go white. Hold down Shift, you get this sort of two arrow facing arrow thing happening. Hold down Shift, select it, and drag out a copy over to frame 30 because we're going to base it on that 15 frame thing. Let go, and it will make a key here at frame 30. So if I grab my time slider at this stage, you'll see it 0, It's up in the air where it started from. It bounces down into the ground, and then it bounces back up again. So we can turn off the auto key so we don't damage anything at this stage. And you can just quickly see your animation in play here. Remember too that when you do this drag and hold down shift, it will make a copy, but if you just grab it, you can actually move them around too after the fact. So they're movable. Cool. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to introduce you to the curve editor. Now there's a number of ways of getting to the curve editor. You can right click the ball itself or the object that you're using, and if you look down in your quad menu, you'll see that it says curve editor. That's one way. Another way is actually up the top if you've got your ball selected at this stage, because that's where your animation is will show up. If you look up the top here, you'll see the curve editor is up to here as a button. This is 2017 version I'm using, so there's another button there for the curve editor. And down the bottom near your timeline on the left of your 0 keyframe, there's also a mini curve editor. So let's just go with it. We'll go with the right click and we'll hit curve editor. Okay, so here's your curve editor. I'll just drag it into the middle of the frame here so you can see. We've got a number of areas. We have the controller pane over here. So this is where you can look around and look at all the different controllers. So you can see at the moment we've got the ball selected and it's got position, transform position, X, Y and Z. So the move controller things happening here. We have the key pane here where the keyframes are, and you'll see there's also a times ruler down the bottom here with your keyframes. And if you look here, you'll see that the color of your curves represent the movement of the ball. And you can see here that the blue one here, the Z track is in blue, and it clearly shows the bounce here. So here it is up in the air, and here it hits the ground, and here it is back up in the air again. This also is like a time slider. You can see you can move it, and it affects the ball. And you can see that there is a green here, which is representing the other axis there, and you also can actually pan. You can actually move over here and you can see that there should be a red one there too, which is flatlined as well because we haven't done any movement in those directions. Okay, one of the things we've got to do is change the view of what we're looking at and to the curve editor. So the curve editor uses a world view. You can see it up here. And we're just looking through here. So we just got the reference coordinate system is on view. So if you have a look at the drop down list here and click on world, it will be in the same frame of mind to our ball. So activate the auto key button so it all becomes activated again. I'm just going to drag the curve editor up a little bit. Okay, and we'll just drag that out a bit so you can see what's going on. Alright, so let's activate the left viewport by just simply clicking on the ball in the left viewport. Alright, so I want to go forward a little bit here. I want to bring this time slider over to frame 30, and on the Y here I'm going to drag it forward a bit. Probably about something like that. Okay, so let's turn off auto key. And let's grab our time slider and see what's going on. Now, okay, so we haven't got it right yet. We're going forward because you can see it over here in your curve, in your green, right? So we're going forward, but it doesn't start to frame 15, and it comes up from frame 15 to frame 30. So now we're going to adjust this a little bit. So to do that, in the curve editor, click on the Y position key along the green curve to select it. So we want this guy here. Alright, so you can go here and hit Y, so there it is. We're going to select this guy here, which is on frame 15, that key there, and you can just simply select it in the curve editor. You can see you get some handlebars here as well. You can do all sorts of things. You could do a box selection like that if you wanted to, like that, but we're simply just going to delete it. And you can see now the curve starting from 0 to 30. This is actually going forward here. So we can grab our time slider. We can grab it in here too if we like. But I'll grab the time slider from the bottom for the purpose of it. And let's just see what's going on. Okay. So now it's actually starting to take shape. It's not completely right yet, but we're going to fix that the way it hits the ground there. Okay, so I'm just going to click this guy off for a second. So let's add a trajectory path to our ball and some ghosting. So I'll show you how to do that. First of all, right click your ball till you get to the quad menu, go down to object properties. Where you see display properties over here, tick trajectory, press OK. And now you can actually see the trajectory of the ball, the animation of the ball. You can also see little white ticks along it. They represent frames. You can also see the ease in and ease out effect where they're a little bit closer together. Okay. Now the other thing we need to put on is the ghosting, and to see the ghosting we go up to views up the top here and we tick ghosting, and you can see that we have a ghosting effect here, so you can see where the ball is in each frame, before and after type of thing. So you notice there's it's kind of hard to see. There's a few too many sort of frames going on or ghosts going on. You can change that by actually going up to your customize button up the top here and going to preferences, going across to viewport tab, looking over here where it says ghosting frames, change the 5 to, or whatever it's set at, up to a 4, and display north frames to 2. And press OK. And you'll see that there's a lot less frames there now, and it's a bit more understandable. And you'll get actually a frame every 2 keyframes, so it's a bit less as well. So let's go back to our ball and adjust the timing of the bounce in the Z dimension. So let's open up the curve editor, whichever way you like to. I'm going to just click this guy. I just want to see the blue line, the Z position track. So over here in my panel over here, I'm just going to click on the Z position so it's not highlighting all 3. Now we're going to change the bounce. So we need to select this guy here, the key here. So you can just simply click on it like so to select it. Well, do a box selection around it. I'll just bring it into view a bit for us. So we now have this key selected. So what we're going to do is change this this curve here so it looks like a better bounce. So up here in this track view, you can see if you hover over these guys here, you'll see it tells you what they are. So that first one's set tangent as auto, and this one is set tangent to spline. But this third one along here, set tangent to fast, if you click that guy, it will automatically change our keyframe here. And if you do, you'll see that now the bounce is looking a bit more real, even if you just look in the curve. So we'll just grab our slider and have a look at it, how it's working. If you have a look in the left viewport here, you can see it's kind of bouncing. That's me being a bit shaky. I'll just click on play. You'll see that it's actually, if you look over in this view here, you can see it's bouncing fairly well. We've got some more adjustments to do. So now we're going to adjust the basketball's forward motion. Now, if we go to click on the Y position track here, the green one, you'll see that the curve this is the ease in and ease out that 3ds Max does when you're using the auto key. And we don't want that because that won't look so real in our animation, and the forward doesn't sort of slow in and then slow out. So in this state, we're going to change this to a linear tangent. So we're going to select both keys. So you can do it any way you like, but I'm just going to do a box selection over both of them like so. So you can see with a turn white, I've selected both of them. And we need a linear tangent. So over here, just here, set tangent to linear, which is this straight line here. That's what we want. So click that guy, and you'll see that this is changed to go straight, and it will look even better now, our animation. So let's grab our animation and check it out. There we go. Starting to look much better in the direction it's going as well. Still needs some stuff. So typically a bouncing ball doesn't bounce once, it keeps bouncing. So the curve editor actually gives you the means of repeating the initial bounce. So let's go up to our curve editor here, and over in my panel here, I'll grab hold of the ball because it's not showing there. Let's just go and have a look at the X position here. By selecting the X position in the panel over there. And the X position is just a straight red line. It doesn't do anything. We don't actually need it, so we can just delete it. So do a box selection over all the 3 of its keyframes and press delete on the keyboard. So let's then go into the Y and the Z position and actually hold down Control and select the Y and the Z so we can see them both. Let's put it into view here. Okay, so we can see what we're doing here. So on your track view, the curve editor, you'll see this guy here. If you don't see it, you can right click a space and then tick it on, because sometimes it's not on, but it's the parameters curve out of range types, and you'll see a number of different things going on here. These dialogues represent various options of how to continue a portion of an animation outside the range of the keys we've already created. Each option is represented by a graphic button. In the graphic, the original animation is represented by a solid trace, and the effect of continuing the animation is represented by a dotted trace. You can, underneath there, you can see you can click the graphic button itself to choose the same type for both incoming and outgoing of the animation, or you can use the smaller buttons underneath to choose incoming and outgoing types individually. So those little buttons under here can be selected, or the actual graphic option there. In this case, you'd think loop would be the obvious option, but it also loops the forward motion, so it sort of will go back and forward. So it's not. So what we'll do is that you can see here that the constant in and out is already kind of selected. We'll leave the incoming one constant because that's the start of the animation, but over here, the relative repeat, we'll click the outgoing one here. Okay, and then we'll hit OK, and we can have a look now at what we've done. You can see that it's repeated there for us, and let's have a go at just running an animation, seeing what happens. So there we go. We've got our basic bounce happening.